On the night of February 1st, 1959, 9 experienced hikers cut their way out of their tent from the inside, half-dressed, barefoot, in minus 30-degree weather. They ran into the frozen darkness of the Ural Mountains. None of them made it back alive. When search teams found their bodies weeks later, they discovered something impossible. 2 of the hikers had crushed ribs, with force equal to a car crash. One was missing her tongue. Another had radiation on his clothes. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints from anyone else, no animal tracks. Just 9 dead hikers scattered across a mountain slope in Soviet Russia. The Soviet government investigated for 3 months, then quietly closed the case with one sentence. They died from a compelling natural force. They never explained what that force was. And for over 60 years, nobody has been able to figure out what really happened that night. To understand this story, you have to understand the people involved. The group was led by a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. He was one of the most experienced hikers at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. His team was handpicked. Every member had years of winter mountaineering experience. There were 10 of them originally, 9 students and 1 older guide. Their goal was to reach a mountain called Otorten. In the local Mansi language, the name means something disturbing. It translates to "don't go there." On January 27th, one of the hikers turned back due to knee pain. His name was Yuri Yudin. That decision saved his life. He would become the only survivor of the Dyatlov group. The remaining 9 continued on. They took photographs during their journey, detailed diary entries, careful notes about weather conditions and route planning. Everything was normal until the night of February 1st. That night, they camped on the eastern slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. The name of this mountain is important too. In Mansi language, Kholat Syakhl means dead mountain. They set up their tent, cooked dinner, went to sleep. Something happened during that night that no one has been able to explain, because at some point, all 9 of them cut their way out of the tent from the inside using knives. They didn't unzip the entrance. They slashed through the fabric in a desperate rush to escape. They left everything behind. Their boots, their coats, their food, their weapons. They ran barefoot down the mountain in temperatures reaching minus 30 degrees Celsius for 1.5 kilometers. Whatever they were running from was more terrifying than freezing to death. When search teams reached the tent 3 weeks later, they were shocked. The tent was empty, cut open from the inside, half buried in snow. They followed the footprints downhill. 9 sets of prints, some in bare feet, some in socks, all leading down the slope. The prints ended at the tree line, under a large cedar tree. They found the first 2 bodies. Both were nearly naked. They had climbed the tree. The branches were snapped up to 5 meters high, as if they were trying to see something. Then they had built a small fire and died beside it. Further up the slope, they found 3 more bodies, including Igor Dyatlov himself. All 3 had been trying to walk back up the mountain toward the tent, as if they had realized what they'd escaped from was gone. But the temperature was too low. They collapsed before they could reach shelter. That accounted for 5 hikers. The other 4 wouldn't be found for another 2 months. When those final 4 bodies were discovered in May, buried under 4 meters of snow in a nearby ravine, the case became even more disturbing. 3 of them had suffered massive internal injuries. The chest of one hiker, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, was fractured with force so violent that the pathologist compared it to being hit by a fast-moving car. Another hiker, Ludmila Dubinina, had multiple broken ribs, and this is the detail that terrified investigators. Her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips were missing, but there were no external wounds, no sign of animal attack, no indication that anyone else had been there. The pathologist wrote in his official report that these injuries could not have been caused by another human. The force required was beyond human capability. Yet somehow, 4 hikers had died from what appeared to be a violent, invisible impact, and their clothes contained trace levels of radiation. The investigation was suddenly classified. Files were locked away in Soviet archives. The case was officially closed with that one vague sentence about a compelling natural force. And nobody spoke about it publicly for decades. Here's where it gets stranger. Over the next 60 years, dozens of theories tried to explain what happened. Some blamed avalanches, but the slope angle wasn't steep enough. The tent wasn't destroyed, and avalanches don't cause the specific injuries the hikers suffered. Some blamed secret Soviet military experiments. The radiation traces support this, but no records of such tests were ever declassified. Some blamed the indigenous Mansi people, but investigators found no evidence of any human presence near the camp. The Mansi were also cleared as suspects. They had no motive. Some suggested infrasound, extremely low-frequency sound waves generated by wind over mountain peaks. Infrasound can cause panic, disorientation, and physical illness in humans. It could explain why the hikers fled in terror, but it couldn't explain the impossible physical injuries. Some pointed to something even stranger. In several of the last photographs taken by the hikers, unexplained bright lights are visible in the sky. Other people in the region reported seeing glowing orbs in the sky that same night. Soviet military records from 1959 confirmed rocket tests were happening in the general area, but nothing that could account for what happened to those 9 hikers. In 2019, the Russian Prosecutor General's office reopened the case. For the first time in 60 years, official investigators went back to Kholat Syakhl. They studied the terrain, the weather patterns, and the modern scientific data. Their conclusion, announced in July 2020, was that the deaths were caused by a rare type of avalanche called a slab avalanche. According to their theory, a small block of hardened snow slid down and hit the tent, forcing the hikers to flee into the darkness. Once outside, disoriented and freezing, they got lost, split up, and died of hypothermia. The injuries were caused by the impact of the snow slab. This explanation was published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal in 2021. But many researchers and the families of the victims don't accept it because the physical evidence still doesn't match. Slab avalanches don't leave bodies scattered 1.5 kilometers apart. They don't cause the specific internal injuries seen in 3 of the hikers. They don't explain the radiation. They don't explain the missing tongue and eyes. And they don't explain why 9 experienced winter mountaineers would abandon everything and run barefoot into a sub-zero night, unless something inside that tent was so terrifying that they preferred death by cold than staying one more second inside. There's one detail I save for the end. Yuri Yudin, the one hiker who turned back due to knee pain and survived, spent the rest of his life obsessed with what happened to his friends. He visited the site multiple times. He read every declassified document. He interviewed every investigator. When he died in 2013, his last request was to be buried near the graves of the 9 hikers who died that night. His last public statement about the case was, "If I had a chance to ask God just one question, it would be, what really happened to my friend that night?" He died without ever getting an answer. And the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains, to this day, one of the most well-documented, most investigated, and most inexplicable mysteries in modern history. So what actually happened on Kholat Syakhl on the night of February 1st, 1959? An avalanche? Infrasound-induced panic? A Soviet military experiment gone wrong? Or something the science of that era, and even now, has no name for? We may never know. But 9 people saw something inside that tent that terrified them more than the frozen Ural night outside. And whatever it was, they took that answer with them into the darkness. If this video disturbed you, good. That means you're paying attention. Subscribe to MythicNeuron for more terrifying truths the universe doesn't want you to know. and comment below. What do you think happened at Dyatlov Pass? Was it an avalanche, a military accident, or something we still don't have the science to explain? Stay curious. Stay afraid, because sometimes the most disturbing mysteries aren't the ones we don't have evidence for. They're the ones we have all the evidence for and still can't understand.